In one of the earlier videos that we've done of this recording, you started to talk about censorship and your concerns about freedom of speech in one form or fashion. Could you go into a little bit more depth about that?
Yeah, let's have a look at Brexit for one moment. I know we talked about that previously, but there's this underlying desire from a certain sector, the Leavers, or the leadership in particular, about shutting up the Remainers by saying democracy has spoken, you just get on with it. And we're not allowed to talk about not liking the fact that we're going to leave and the implications of what it is. Leavers had 45 years to complain, and they actually did complain. So there is an element where we are tried to be labelled as anti-patriotic, democratic, and a whole load of other things because we do not disagree with what's going on. And in my mind, democracy is about discussion, debate, arguing in a discussion sort of way, and resolving issues. And if it's all one-sided and debate is stifled, then we do not have democracy. It's been said a lot recently. A certain Brexiteer once said that if people can't change their minds, then we do not live in a democracy. David Davis.
Okay. And one of the problems we seem to be having is that now that certain side has actually won, it's now being very aggressive in its trying to stop people from actually talking.
Yes.
Well, that's the view that's how I see things. Is that how things are seen over where you are?
Absolutely. But I think the problem is that if we had debate, if we were able to argue our case and what the likelihood of leaving the European Union is, without being called doom mongers and brimoners.
Michael, both you and I are now over 50.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm becoming a little bit frustrated in myself, and I don't know if you feel this as well, is that although we've got the skill sets and a lot of experience, we're now not being considered for certain types of work anymore, which I feel very frustrated because it's only now that I feel as though I've reached, if you like, the pinnacle of my capabilities, and I really want to explore that. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop, but the sense of having a traditional job, not even a 9-to-5 job, does seem to be now falling out of the ballpark. Is that how you feel, and other people that you know that are in our age group?
I know there's people in our age group that find it difficult to actually get a full-time job 9 to 5. Therefore, they end up going freelance and barely scraping a living. Some of them are successful, but a lot of them are just scraping by, managing to pay the bills, but not making lots of money out of it. But you've also got the other side as well. The older you get, especially working in IT, everything changes so frequently. New versions of software, new ways of doing things, new software, new hardware. Every time you go and look on the job site, to my current employers, I'm not currently looking, you see new skill sets. And if you haven't got those skill sets, you find it difficult getting a job. And it's becoming more and more difficult to keep up to date with technology the older you get as well. So at some point, I think this is probably the last job in IT that I'll actually do. In fact, I think I would find it difficult getting another job in IT if I started even looking for another job, unless it was actually working for my field.
But do you think at the age that we're getting, because I know that really you begin to realise that technology isn't that important, that what is actually important is making connections with other people and sharing your life with others?
No, absolutely. I've run businesses. I got involved with doing lots of social media. You're told to spend time on Twitter, do stuff on Facebook, do this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, a lot of it is just a waste of time. I don't see any advantages. Yeah. This is the only thing I actually agree with the guy that runs Wetherspoons pubs. Is the fact that I don't see value in doing social media to build a business. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you need to spend lots and lots of money that I don't actually have. But to me, it doesn't bring value to the business. And socially,
Yes.
I'd actually rather be face to face with someone than on the other side of a screen. So in many,
Well, absolutely. And I was at a networking group on Tuesday, and one of the things that became quite clear there was that what networking is about is actually finding ways to help one another, to, you know, to help other people. Actually, the finance is not that important. It's just because you get referrals coming backwards and forwards, and that becomes the important part of it, because you're generating that interest in, well, in how you can help other people solve their problems, and be available to help them, which I think is what we've tried to do most of our lives.
Exactly.
And it has been a struggle, because there is a certain, I mean, what are the key issues, what are the key things that you feel would make someone be successful, based on what you've been taught?
To be successful, it boils down to being good at communicating and the old-fashioned networking. So getting to know people, getting to know what people's problems are, and trying to solve those problems.
Yeah. So it's similar to what I've just described as well, which I think is quite fascinating.
What's also quite interesting is the fact that technology is changing people. They're making them less social. All you've got to do is do your morning commute in London and see how many people are not willing to do eyeball to eyeball. They'll actually look at their mobile phones, so they don't have to make contact with someone else and communicate. And it turns out the only people that communicate on public transport in London is people that actually grew up in, I'm slightly exaggerating, but they seem to come from the Midlands.
Oh, right, okay.
And every time I've spoken to somebody on the plane,
you may have a bias
who's willing to talk and not keep their eyes on their mobile phone, happen to come from the Midlands. I mean, that's the only reason why I'm saying that.
Well, one of the things that's tongue in cheek, yeah. I mean, one of the things I noticed today, I mean, I'm under a bit of pressure in my job, and I'm only there part time, but I find that most people find that they're disconnected from any kind of social grouping within that kind of institute. It seems to be becoming harder and harder to connect with people. Otherwise, it's just through. It's like I'm only in there a certain time, but I have to do a lot of stuff through the email and intranet. And if I'm not actually physically in the college, I can't connect the stuff that I need to connect with. What's happening in the workplace is that people no longer have those social connections that they once did have, which made them want to go into work because it gave the life.
I think people are overloaded with the work. Companies don't have the resource they need, and therefore they're just putting pressure on the employees they've actually got to do multiple tasks, not just their own job, but they end up doing 2 or 3 jobs. And they're juggling so much stuff, they can't keep up with it, and it becomes very stressful. And the fact is that, you know, the cost of living is so expensive, no matter where you live, that most people are struggling just to get by. And I think all these conditions are a soup for people becoming despondent, apathetic, and just not interested in what's going on elsewhere.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.